All right, up next we have merging queries. So you'll see the merge query options here in the home tab of the query editor. And when you click on that button, it'll open up a dialog box like this, where you can select two tables with matching columns in order to create a merged table. And basically, this works just like a lookup in Excel. You're joining information from two different tables based on some common column or key. So in this example that we're looking at here, we're merging a table called sales data with another table called product lookup, both of which contain a matching product key column. So essentially, what we'll be doing here is grabbing information or attributes about those product keys from the product lookup table and pulling them in or embedding them into the sales table by matching them to the associated product keys. So my trick for remembering this is that merging adds columns to an existing table. So you're not adding any rows, you're pulling in more information and making your table wider by adding columns. So very important point here, just because you can merge tables and because it's an interesting tool to use, that doesn't mean that you should. In fact, it's generally better to keep tables separate and define relationships between them within the data model. And again, more on that later, but keep that idea in the back of your head that you can merge queries like this, but it's always not the most efficient solution. So why don't we go and jump into the query editor and I'll show you what one of these merges actually looks like. Okay, so I'm in the query editor of my AdventureWorks report. And to demo the idea of merging, let's say that we want to look at our sales data, which has our order dates and order numbers, our product key, customer key, territory key, order line items, quantities, right? We've got all of these attributes related to our sales. And let's say we want to pull in a little information about these products right here into the sales table without having to go over into the product lookup, find the associated product key, and then look at the information here, right? Let's just say we want all of that information accessible in one place. So this is an opportunity that we could use a tool like Merge. So I'm going to start with the sales data here. And from my home tab, and all the way over on the right here, you're going to see options for merge and append. And we'll talk about append next, but with merge, I can do it in a couple of different ways. I can either merge queries or merge queries as new. And if I just simply use the merge queries option, it will preserve the exact tables that I have in place now, and it will just add the merged columns into my existing sales data 2022 table. If I choose the second option, it's going to create a brand new merged table that contains the merged results while maintaining my original component tables as well. So I really don't want or need this option at this point, so we're going to click on Merge Queries. So what we have here is we have our first table, right? We had selected the Sales Data 2022 table. So this is the first table that shows up in our Merge Queries option. All right, we can see all of the columns contained within that table. And then below that, we have this drop-down menu. And this allows us to access all of the other queries that have been added into the query editor. And again, we want to grab detail from the product lookup table, right? And so then again, here we get this preview of all of the columns contained within our product lookup table. And the only columns that these two tables have in common is product key. So if I select product key and product key, Power BI goes through, you can see down at the bottom here, it says the selection matches 29,481 of 29,481 rows from the first table. So it's an exact match from product to product. The other thing to pay attention to here, but not something that we necessarily have to worry about, is the join type, right? So by default, this join is a left outer. And what this is basically saying is take all of the product keys that exist in my first table, this sales data 2022 table, and grab any rows that you find a match for in my second table, this product lookup table. And for our purposes, this is going to do the trick. So everything looks good here. We'll click OK. And so you see what happens here. We've added a new column, but the column looks kind of funny. It says table, and it's formatted with these links. All right, so from here, we actually have one extra step that we need to take, and it's to click this double arrow button here to expand the table and all of the contents within it. All right, so by default, all of the columns from the table that we want to join are selected, and if we were to press OK here, this would add all of these columns as part of the merge. And honestly, that's not really what we want. So we want to go through and select the columns that we actually want to see. So let's start off, we'll select product key. This will give us a way to kind of compare results. And then let's say we want product name and product color. Our last checkbox here, use original column names as the prefix. If I leave this selected, it's going to create a prefix for every column name with the name of the product table, right? And we'll see what that looks like in a minute. I'll just leave this selected for the sake of this example. So we click OK. And now we've expanded the product lookup table. And now we've got this new information that didn't exist in the sales table up until this point, right? We've got product name and product color detail, and it's populated for every single row of the table, just like it would if we were using an Excel lookup, right? So we can scroll over to the left here, right? And you can see we've got product key 529, 529, 214. Scroll back over, right? We've got 529, 529, 214, right? So we can see that we've got all of this new data added in for every record of the table. And like I hinted at earlier, just because we can do things like this and merge tables together doesn't mean that we always should. In fact, merging information in the way that we just did actually creates a lot of duplicative and redundant data, which can be avoided entirely by using table relationships. Again, we're getting there soon. We'll cover relationships in the next section. But for now, let's go ahead and we'll delete that merge. And now we are back to where we started. So there's a quick demo for you on how to merge queries.